I like him to, if nothing else, just be like a vulture with the targets and the yards. So I was a little disappointed. Bassmaster snuck me again. Welcome to Pigskin Passion TV, and it's your boy, the Black Mamba, and we back. This is season number 2, episode number 65, and guys, another draft in the books. So I had my draft last night, and guys, I can tell you, a draft never goes like you want it to go or like you expect it to go. My fellow owners in this draft drafted pretty well this year. I was expecting some slip-ups, and it never really came to fruition, and I was never really feeling like I was able to take advantage of anybody. So with that said, let me just recap my draft here. At the number 12 pick, and we'll go through some of the other guys. We'll go through some of their picks as well. As you can see here in round 1, in the first round, it went pretty much like I expected it to. I was really hoping that either Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, or Jamar Chase would fall to me. And when I went over my top 5 running backs, as you can see, I really didn't have much options in the first, second round. So as I had stated, Justin Jefferson did fall to me, and I had to make a decision. And really and truly, it was between Justin Jefferson and Garrett Wilson. And I just couldn't pass Justin Jefferson up, even though he doesn't have what I feel like is a perennial quarterback. I still feel like he's going to produce good numbers. So I went with Justin Jefferson in the first round. Then I turned right back around, and with my first pick in the second round, I went with Jahmyr Gibbs, and I was satisfied with that pick. If you saw my previous videos, you know that these were 2 guys that I had targeted. They were not the number 1 guys on my list, but they were guys that if they fell to me, I would pick them, and I did. So second round went almost according to the way I thought that it would. I actually was surprised that there wasn't a quarterback taken in the first round. As you can see, there were a couple of quarterbacks taken in the second round here with Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes. My man here, he always goes with the running quarterback, so that pick really didn't surprise me. He actually normally goes with Lamar Jackson, so that pick was kind of threw me off, but not really. So the second round kind of went, it still wasn't any picks that were just out of the place. I don't know if I would have picked Deebo Samuel in the second round. I think there were a lot more players with much better potential than Deebo. But hey, sometimes you gotta get out there and take a chance. So I had to wait all the way until the third round, the last pick of the third round. And at this point, if you saw my quarterback video, I told you if Joe Burrow was there in the 3rd/4th round, I would go with him. And he was. So like in the 3rd round, there was a good run on some of the top tier running backs, which I probably would have, if these guys had been available to me, I probably would have. If Garrett Wilson if he had failed to me, I would have taken him. And those were guys in this round that I would have taken, other than Mr. Jalen Waddle, who I did take. I was satisfied with this pick. I feel like Jalen I don't feel like he's a number 2 back there in Miami. I feel like he's like 1A or 1B, should I say. Sort of like back when Peyton Manning had Marvin Harrison, and I can't think of the guy's name right now. But I feel like Jalen Waddle is a 1B. I don't feel like he's a number 2. So I was happy with this pick. And of course, my first pick, I had to turn around and make the first pick in the 4th round. and I went with Joe Burrow. I was very happy with this pick. So out of the first 3 rounds, the guys that I told you that I would pick, I did pick, but he was the only one that was like the top of my list that I was able to get. So going through the 4th round, I don't really see any picks in here that are just alarming. As I said, these guys actually picked pretty good last night, according to the best available players. I think pretty much everybody did okay. Amari Cooper, that may have been a stretch here, but he's a number 1, so who knows? Then I had to wait until the last pick of the 5th round. And if you guys saw my tight end video, I told you that I would roll the dice and go with Mr. Mark Andrews if he was available to me. But I knew I was taking a chance. I wasn't sure if he was going to fall to me. If I really wanted him, I would have had to pair him up with Joe Burrow in this. I much prefer to have a wide receiver. So as you can see, Bassmaster took him with his 2nd pick in the 5th round. Then there was a run on tight ends. Sam Laporta and Trey McBride went. So these were guys that I had my eyes on that went. So I figured I'd just kind of start like loading up on my running back position, and running backs were actually getting pretty low at this point. So I went with Najee Harris. I've had Najee for the last 2 years, and honestly speaking, I haven't been happy with his production. And if I had been able to avoid drafting him in this draft, I would have, but I felt like he was the best available at this point in the draft. So I drafted Najee, and to kind of get a little insurance or backup for lack of production that he had previous years, Raheem Mostert was my next pick in the 6th round. As you see here, Dave Montgomery was available, but I already have Jahmyr Gibbs, so I didn't want to have 2 running backs on the same team, which is why I didn't go with David Montgomery, because as you can see, he's actually ranked higher than Najee and Raheem. But to get 2 running backs, unless you want the handcuff, and at this point, I didn't really want a handcuff, so I went with Raheem, and 6th round went pretty according to schedule. And then we had round 7, which I had the last pick in this round. And it seemed like every round I was starting to get sniped. And I just never really felt like I was getting good value for the players that I was picking up in some of these rounds. In this round, I actually had my eyes on Javonte Williams and Jaden Reed. I had those 2 guys queued up in mind to pick, and as you can see, they got scooped up before it was my pick. I would have taken a flyer on Tank Dell as well, but it's water under the bridge because those guys, by the time it was my pick, those guys were gone. So I felt like Michael Pittman was a decent pickup, especially being in the offense that they're in with AR-15. I really like that offense. Michael Pittman was my 7th round pick, and then I turned around and I got Tajay Spears in the 8th round, which, as you see, I could have actually picked up Tony Pollard, but I actually think Tony Pollard may be a injury away from being out for the season. I don't think he's a 3-down back. I think he's more of a split carries, and I think Tajay would be there to pick up any slack if Tony was to get hurt. So I think he has more upside than Pollard, which is why I went with him. So I went with Tajay Spears in the 8th round. And at this point, you're just kind of filling out your rosters. I think this was a good pickup here with Christian Watson. I was hoping that he would kind of hang out for a little while. And going to the 9th round, I actually was kind of sick behind this pick here. This was my next pick, Deontay Johnson. He's going to be in a not so offensive friendly offense this year, but I think that he's gonna produce. I mean, he really has no competition, no other weapons on the team. So I like him to, if nothing else, just be like a vulture with the targets and the yards. So I was a little disappointed. Bassmaster snuck me again. So I had to go back to the drawing board. I was gonna pick Chase Brown, and as you can see, my guy here got him, and it was just coming down to who was the best available. Rico Dowdle, that was a good pickup. I would have picked him up simply because I don't think Zeke is gonna be able to carry the rock for the whole year. So I went with Jake Ferguson, and y'all know he was in my video for top 5 tight ends. And I actually got him a little later than I had planned to pick a tight end. I picked him up in the 9th round, which I felt like that was a really good pick. And to start off the 10th round, I got the young bull, and this was my guy that I gave you the asterisk, Jaden Daniels. So I was happy with this pickup. And I really like my quarterback position right now. I think I have a dual threat at quarterback. So that was my 10th round pick. And just coming through, checking some of these other guys, checking their picks out. Caleb Williams, that's a good pick. I think he's going to have a good year this year as well. Evan Ingram, that was a good pick. And this is a 16-round draft. So these last 6 picks are just kind of guys that you drafting for a high upside. And I ended up going with Jackson Smith in Njigba from Seattle. And I think that he could have a good year this year. So actually, I probably would have picked Jonathan Brooks. I know he's on IR, but he doesn't have any competition at the running back position. And at this point, you basically got somebody on your bench who at some, maybe in the 4th or the 5th week of the year is going to be a potential starter. So I like that pickup with Jonathan Brooks. This was a good pickup as well, Trey Benson. Connor has the propensity to get hurt, so I think that Trey Benson could potentially be a good pickup. I definitely would have gotten him as a handcuff if I had James Conner on my list. And I did get a handcuff for my round 12 pick at Zach Carbonet with Seattle. And Kenneth Walker is a beast, but last year he got hurt for a little bit during the season. And my man Zach actually picked up the slack pretty good. So who knows? That same thing could possibly happen this year. If it does, I'm there. Hopefully I can hang on to him as the season goes on. But that was my number 12 pick. And can't say that I would have picked any of these other guys in round 12. And going into round 13, this is really just garbage time. And I picked up Keenan Allen. I'm kind of surprised that he fell so far in, I would have picked him up in the 9th round thinking that he could be productive. But at this point, why not? Last year, he was an absolute beast for me. He turned in some really good games. And if he could just do a little bit of the same thing this year in that offense that he's in, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to produce with a phenomenal rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams. So I like this pickup at round 13. Round 14, I just took a flyer. I wanted to get another tight end instead of, having to go to the waiver wire after the season starts. So I took a flyer on Luke Musgrave, and he could be an integral piece in that offense with Jordan Love. So why not take a chance on him? After the 10th round, guys, these were all just kind of flyer picks, but I think I think I got some good value with some of these guys. Hopefully, one or two of them will hit. And in round 15, it's my round 15 and 16 are always a kicker and a defense for me. So round 15, I went with Jake Moody with the San Francisco 49ers. And as I stated in my video, I was going with I stream my defenses throughout the year. So in week 1, I'm going with the Bengals, and depending on how they play and who they play the following week, I may go with them in week 2, but more than likely I'll drop and pick another defense up. But that was my draft, guys, and this is how it all shaped up once it was all said and done. So I got pretty much the guys that I was looking for. I got my number 1 guy, Joe Burrow. Just going back to the videos that I gave you guys, I got my number 1 guy, Joe Burrow. I got Jamar Gibbs. I got Justin Jefferson, Jake Ferguson, and the Bengals. I got their defense. And I think the role player guys that I picked were able to get, I think they're going to be pretty good. I like my team. I think my team is pretty solid at each position compared to the other guys. So we'll see, guys. So I just wanted to come on here and recap my draft for 2024. And if you guys haven't drafted already, which you probably have, but if you haven't, that kind of gives you a blueprint at the number 12 pick of some guys that would be available to you in your draft. I hope this information can help you in your draft and will help you in your league. And we're going to come here each week and just see who can be the hot pickups and who did what. We're going to have weekly fantasy ballers and busters. So guys, there you have it. And with that said, I got a public service announcement. Spike that like, comment, subscribe, and it's your boy, the Black Mamba, out.